My stepsister, Liling, didn't just run away. She vanished into the night with a wandering poet, leaving behind a scandal, a very angry father, and a very expensive red wedding dress that was currently being forced over my head. "Suck it in," my stepmother hissed, yanking the silk sash so tight I saw stars. "I can't suck in my hips, mother," I gasped, holding onto the bedpost for dear life. "They are made of bone and, well, me. My name is Bai, and I was born with a curse, or perhaps a divine joke. I am a man, fully and completely. Yet the gods gave me a face that could launch 1,000 ships and a body that, well, let's just say the local tailors whisper about me. I have a waist that can be spanned by 2 hands, but below that, I have hips and a bottom that would make a concubine jealous. A Venus, as the Western travelers might say. He has the body of a temptress and the gender of a useless son, my father groaned, pacing the room. But he is the only option. The general's palanquin arrives in 2 hours. We cannot tell the emperor we lost the bride. We will be executed. But father, I argued, trying to pull the heavy embroidered collar up to hide my lack of a bosom. General Han is the wolf of the north. He kills men with his bare hands. When he finds out his bride has a handle, he will snap my neck. Then don't let him find out, my stepmother snapped, shoving 2 steamed buns into the chest of the dress to create a phantom cleavage. Keep the lights off, feign modesty, you have the face for it. She spun me around toward the bronze mirror. I stopped breathing. The reflection staring back wasn't Bai, the disregarded sun. It was a stunning, raven-haired beauty. The red silk hugged my curved lower body perfectly, emphasizing the Venus silhouette, while the heavy makeup softened my already delicate features. My long hair was piled high in a golden phoenix crown, swaying with jade tassels. I looked like a bride, a terrified, deceitful, curvy bride. The wedding ceremony was a blur of terror. I was trembling so hard that jade beads on my veil clinked together like wind chimes in a hurricane. General Han Zexiu, the wolf. I could only see his boots through the red veil. Black leather, dusted with travel, terrifyingly large. When we bowed to heaven and earth, his presence was like a furnace next to me. He smelled of sandalwood, cold iron, and something muskier like rain on dry earth. He didn't speak. He just took my hand. His palm was rough, calloused, and engulfed my small, soft fingers completely. The real panic set in when we were led to the bridal chamber. The door clicked shut, locking us in. I sat on the edge of the bed, my heart hammering against the steamed buns in my dress. This is it, I thought. Death by wolf. "You are shaking," a deep baritone voice rumbled. I jumped. Hans Xiu was standing by the table pouring 2 cups of wine. He hadn't removed his outer armor yet. He turned, and for the first time, he lifted my veil with a sword. A tradition, but it felt like a threat. I looked up and forgot how to breathe. He was devastating. Sharp jawline, eyes as dark as ink, and a mouth that looked like it rarely smiled but certainly knew how to kiss. He wasn't just a brute. He was untamed elegance. He stared at me. His eyes widened slightly. He scanned my face, then my neck, then the steamed buns. Then his gaze dropped lower, tracing the curve of my waist and the generous swell of my hips spread out on the silk sheets. "Liling," he said, naming my sister. "Husband," I squeaked. My voice was naturally high and soft, but fear made it sound even more feminine. He handed me the wine. "You were not what the matchmaker described. She said you were plain and frail." I took the cup, my fingers brushing his. "Matchmakers lie to secure a higher dowry, my lord." He snorted, a sound that was almost a laugh. He downed his wine in one go. "Drink. You look like you're about to faint." I drank. Then I coughed. It was strong stuff. I am not feeling well," I lied, playing the fragile flower card. "Perhaps we should simply sleep, separately, for honor." Hans Xiu raised an eyebrow. "We are married, madam. Honor has nothing to do with it." But to my shock, he grabbed a pillow and tossed it to the far side of the massive bed. "But I am not a beast who forces himself on a terrified rabbit," he muttered, stripping off his heavy coat. "Sleep. I will take the edge, but be warned, I kick. I lay awake that night, clutching my chest buns, listening to the deep, steady breathing of the wolf, realizing two things. I was still alive, and my husband was dangerously attractive. The first week was a comedy of errors. I had to maintain the illusion of being a noble lady. I couldn't embroider to save my life. I pricked my finger so many times the handkerchief looked like a murder scene. But I could play the gukim beautifully. Hans XU was a man of few words, but he watched me, constantly. One afternoon, I was in the garden, trying to reach a peach on a high branch. I stretched up, the silk of my dress tightening across my lower back and hips. Suddenly, a large, warm body pressed against my back. A hand, large and firm, gripped my waist to steady me. "Let me," Zexu's voice vibrated against my ear. He plucked the peach easily, but he didn't move away. He stayed there, his chest against my back, his hand lingering on the curve of my hip. "You have a dancer's body," he muttered, his thumb brushing the fabric. "Strong legs, yet you walk as if you are floating." I froze, heat rushing to my cheeks. "I do squats, my lord." "Squats," he repeated, amusement coloring his tone. He turned me. We were inches apart. The steamed buns were gone today, too itchy, replaced by thick layers of cotton padding. He looked down at my chest, then back up to my eyes. He definitely knew the chest was fake, but he didn't seem to care. His focus was entirely on my face and the curve of my body below the waist. "You are strange, wife. You don't chatter like other women. You smell like ink instead of rosewater, and you eat like a soldier." I blushed. I had just polished off 3 bowls of rice at lunch. "I'm a growing girl." He chuckled. It was a deep, rumbling sound that made my toes curl. "Grow all you want. I prefer something to hold on to." The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. He leaned in, his gaze dropping to my lips. I wanted him to kiss me. I wanted it so bad, I almost stood on my toes. But then a servant dropped a tray of tea nearby, shattering the moment. Zexu pulled back, cleared his throat, and walked away. But I saw the look in his eyes. He was hungry, and not for peaches. It had been 2 weeks. We were strangers who lived in the same room, shared meals, and exchanged heated glances that promised sin, but we hadn't crossed the line. Until the bathhouse.
I thought he was out training the troops. I ordered a hot bath in the private annex. I stripped off the layers of deceit, the robes, the padding, the hairpins. I stepped into the steaming water, sighing as the heat soaked into my muscles. I stood up to grab the soap, the water cascading down my back, over the curve of my bottom and down my legs. The door slammed open. "Wife, I forgot my—" Zexu froze. I froze. I was standing there, stark naked, facing away from him. From the back, I was undeniably a woman. Slender shoulders, tiny waist, and that voluptuous round bottom that my stepmother cursed and men secretly stared at. But then I turned around in panic to cover myself, and the truth was revealed. The flat male chests, the lack of hips in the front, and the other male parts. Silence. Absolute, suffocating silence. I squeezed my eyes shut, waiting for the shout. "Traitor! Imposter! Die!" "Turn around," Zexu commanded. His voice wasn't angry. It was strained. I shook my head, grabbing a towel to cover myself. "Please, Lord Han, just kill me quickly. My sister ran away. I had no choice. My family—" "Turn around." I turned, clutching the towel to my chest, trembling. Zexu walked toward me. He was fully dressed in his armor, looking like a god of war descending on a mortal. He stopped at the edge of the tub. The steam swirled around us. "You are a man," he stated. "Yes," I whispered. "You have been sleeping in my bed, wearing my family crest, and eating my rice for 2 weeks?" "I'm sorry about the rice," I sniffled. He stared at me. His eyes were dark, unreadable pools. Then, slowly, he reached out. I flinched. But he didn't strike me. His hand, rough and warm, cups my face. His thumb brushed over my wet cheek. He asked softly, What is your name? Bai, I answered. Bai. He tested the word. White, pure, fitting. His hand moved down. It trailed over my flat chest, down my stomach, and rested heavily on my hip bone. You should kill me, he murmured, stepping closer until his knees touched the tub. The steam swirled around us. You should, I agreed, my heart racing. But his voice dropped to a growl. I have found that I do not want to. He grabbed the towel I was clutching and yanked it away. I gasped. His eyes devoured me. There was no disgust in his gaze, only a raw, confusing intensity. He looked at my body, the mix of masculine and feminine, the softness and the strength, and he licked his lips. You have bewitched me, Bai, he said hoarsely. I thought I was going mad. I wanted my wife, but I felt no desire for a woman. I felt desire for you, the person who argues with me about military history, the person who hums while eating rice. He stepped into the tub, boots and all. The water splashed over the sides. He grabbed me, pulling my wet body against his armor. The cold metal against my skin was a shock, but his mouth was hot fire. He kissed me. It wasn't gentle. It was possessive. It was a claim. Lord Han, I gasped against his mouth. Zexiu, he corrected, lifting me up effortlessly. My legs instantly wrapped around his waist. He groaned when he felt the weight of my hips against him. Gods, you feel perfect. But I'm a man, I panted, clinging to his shoulders. I'm a general. I know how to handle a sword, and I know what I want. The intimacy that followed was spicy enough to burn down the bathhouse. There was no hesitation, no awkwardness. It was as if my body, with all its contradictions, was designed specifically for him. He worshipped the curves that my father had mocked. He loved the Venus bottom, gripping it firmly as he pressed me against the tiles. Mine, he growled in my ear. His thrusts were deep and claiming. Not a stand-in, not a fake. Mine. 3 days of bliss followed. We barely left the room. The servants were scandalized by the noises. I was walking funny, but this time, it wasn't because of the small steps I had to take. It was because my husband was insatiable. We were having breakfast in the garden, me wearing male robes for the first time, sitting on Zexiu's lap while he fed me grapes, when the gate crashed open. I have returned, a shrill voice announced. Liling, my sister. She stood there, looking disheveled and travel-worn. Her poet lover had apparently dumped her when the money ran out. She saw the manor, the wealth, and then she saw Zexiu, handsome, powerful, and doting on someone. Who is this? She screeched, marching over. Then she squinted. Bai? What are you doing in my husband's lap? I froze. Zexiu didn't even stop peeling the grape. Husband? He asked calmly, but his eyes went cold. I am Liling, your betrothed. I was kidnapped, but I escaped. I'm here to take my rightful place. You can send this useless servant back to the pigsty. She smiled at Zexiu, trying to look alluring. I am the real beauty, my lord. Surely you prefer a real woman to that. I felt a pang of insecurity. Liling was technically beautiful, and she was a woman. She could give him heirs. I started to slide off Zexiu's lap. Zexiu's arm tightened around my waist like an iron band, pinning me in place. He looked at Liling. He looked at her up and down, his expression of utter boredom. You? He said. You are the one who ran away? I told you I was kidnapped, she lied. Strange, because my spies told me you ran off with a poet named Sneezy. It was Breeze, she corrected, then slapped her hand over her mouth. Zexiu stood up, lifting me with him. He held me bridal style, effortlessly. Guard, he barked. 2 soldiers appeared instantly. Remove this trespasser. If she returns, shave her head and send her to the nunnery. But I am your wife, Liling shrieked as the guards grabbed her arms. He is a man, a freak, a monster with a big butt. Zexu looked down at me, a wicked smirk playing on his lips. He slapped my rear playfully right in front of everyone. "It is a magnificent butt," he declared loudly, "and it belongs to the general. Now get out." Liling was dragged away, screaming profanities. The scandal of the general marrying a man, and the brother of the original bride, should have ruined us. But Zexu was the emperor's favorite general, and I'd turned out to be quite useful. It turns out being raised as a useless son gave me plenty of time to read. I reorganized Zexu's supply lines, saving the army a fortune. I charmed the emperor with my wit, and I kept the general very, very happy. We were in bed one night. Months later, Zexu was tracing the curve of my hip, his head resting on my chest. "Do you regret it?" I asked, playing with his hair. "Not having a traditional wife?" Zexu propped himself up on one elbow. He looked at me with that intense, smoldering gaze that still made my heart flutter. "A traditional wife would bore me to death, and she wouldn't fit in my arms like you do." He kissed me, slow and deep. "You were the wrong bride, Bai, but you were the only husband I ever wanted." I smiled, pulling him down for another round. "Just remember that when I steal your blankets tonight." "Take the blankets," he growled, settling between my legs. "I'll keep you warm." And he did. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more BL stories.